It may seem odd to include a chapter on women veterans, but the truth is that veterans are like anyone else. They come from different cultures, which impacts how they experience things. Ideally, we would also review African American veterans, Hispanic veterans, and maybe other groups. Today, we'll focus on women veterans. This chapter includes elements of military sociology, the study of women in the military, as well as the study of women veterans. I will not review much with regard to military sociology, but I will focus on the materials related to women veterans. That said, like many things we've been discussing, there are things about military culture and service that impact how women transition out of the military, and you should know about them. I want to share a standard topic in military sociology first. Women have been part of the American military in one way or another for most of its existence. In many cases, there were camp followers, people who followed along units as they moved about the country, and they would provide support services to troops, such as laundry. Many of these people were spouses and other family members. Women were also famous for disguising themselves as men as a way to actually join the services. Women were often allowed to serve in support functions over the years, but there were caps. A 2% cap for women in service was lifted in 1967. Then, in 1973, women were actively recruited into the military with the institution of the all-volunteer force. Still, there was a combat exclusion for women. They were not allowed to participate in the combat arms. This started to end in 2013 with new rules about combat exclusions. By 2019, more than 600 female sailors and Marines were serving in combat arms, or combat armed units previously restricted to men. I put this a question mark next to the 17% figure because in this chapter, your book says that it was 19% of the services were comprised of women. Earlier, they gave you a figure of 17%, and so did I. That's why I put the graph in there showing the 17% from a totally different source. But I want you to know that while the number is still well under 50%, the U.S. is doing as well or better than many other countries in the world. Finally, there are almost 2 million women veterans, making about 11% of veterans today. Women veterans follow many of the same patterns as their male peers. They serve 1 to 2 terms and then deal with the same transition issues that men do. That said, a few things make this pattern a bit different. First, women do leave service a bit earlier than men. Several factors can cause this outcome. Though they are more likely to work in administration and healthcare than men, they also report more injuries, which could influence their decision or need to leave service early. Other issues that women deal with more than men relate to family issues, like childcare, which can be a challenge if you consider that they might have to deploy for long periods of time. Some women soldiers also believe that there is a sexist culture in the military, which also impacts their decision to leave. Women do experience some benefits of military work when they return to the civilian world. They're more likely to be in management than their civilian peers, and they're more likely to go and complete college than male veterans. Like civilians, women veterans are more likely to have problems with depression than men. At least one study shows that men and women have similar rates of PTSD. Women may have similar responses to combat situations as men, but they must also deal with a unique problem. They are much more likely than men to experience sexual assault and interpersonal violence, or IPV. These things can cause PTSD above and beyond combat exposure. For instance, one survey showed that 8% of women but only 2% of men report sexual assault in the military. MST refers to military sexual assault. It is a term used in the VA. One study found that as many as 38% of women in service experience MST. That is a huge number. It's important because women veterans may be able to receive disability benefits for MST-related trauma. MST is important because people who experience it are much more likely to have physical and mental health problems than those who do not. It also is one of the reasons women cite for leaving service. An important GAO study found that the following reasons are why women tend to leave service. 1. Work schedules. 2. Deployments. 3. Organizational culture. 4. Family planning. 5. Sexual assault. And 6. Dependent care. Can you see how some of these things may be more important to women than men? A challenge for making comparisons in this lecture is that it is natural to compare male and female veterans, but in many cases, it is also important to compare military and civilian women. In many cases, women veterans do worse than male veterans, but better than their female peers. I won't spend much time on this, but I think it's important for you to realize that. With regard to disabilities from service, women veterans are a bit more likely to have service-connected disability, but is not that large. While they experience some of the same challenges as men when they leave service, they also have some unique issues. They are more likely to have children than men and to suffer from IPV, for instance. According to the Wounded Warriors Project, specifically Women Warriors Initiative of the Wounded Warriors Project, their top challenges include mental health problems, financial stress, finding employment, feeling isolated, and coping with physical injuries. I want to talk about poverty and homelessness too, because you hear a lot about this, and I'm going to bring in a little bit more than what is in the book. According to the National Veterans Homeless Support website, quote, the rate of poverty amongst veteran households is actually lower than that for non-veteran households, 6.6% compared to 13%, according to measurements conducted in 2017, unquote. Women veterans do better than civilian women, but worse than male veterans. Homelessness is another topic altogether. In the Military Times, it says, quote, according to the latest data from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, veterans make up about 7% of the population experiencing homelessness at any given night, but only 5% of the total population in America. Veterans are overrepresented among the homeless. However, you should also know that veterans are more likely as a whole to own a home than a civilian. And this is a very strange set of findings, but if you can think about it a little bit, you'll see what is going on here. I believe part of what's going on here is that as a whole, the military has a positive effect on the men and women who serve in it. However, for those who experience some sort of trauma, whether it's combat or MST or something else, that they take with them into the civilian world, which increases their likeliness of being homeless. What do you think? This chapter covers both aspects of military life that influence active duty women, but also women veterans. I've tried to focus on the veteran side of things here. I hope that you can see that women veterans deal with some of the same issues as their male counterparts, and the outcomes are similar. They experience PTSD, for instance, and the mental health consequences of that. Women, however, also deal with different traumas in service that impact their decisions to leave, and it may impact their mental health after leaving service. I will end by pointing out that the VA is concerned enough about the unique nature of women's service that they created the Center for Women Veterans to monitor women's well-being and advocate for women veterans.